Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be a pretty spicy person after watching this video. Karen wants $1,000 cash for a $10 coupon sent to the wrong address, pays more in legal fees, reposted with names. This story is from a few years ago when I worked in the legal department of a 1,000+ store national retailer. As part of my job, I handled customer complaints that elevated when the customer threatened legal action. Our customer service call center forwarded Karen's call to me after she threatened legal action. Karen left a message claiming that she was not provided $10 in customer reward coupons, spend $200, receive a $10 coupon in the mail sort of thing. This was before apps. And it was based on her purchase of clothing for her son and daughter for back to school. I looked into it and called Karen back. It turned out we had an old address associated with a rewards account. No big deal, right? I spoke with Karen and offered to send her the original $10 coupon and an additional $25 for her trouble to the correct address. That did not satisfy Karen. She claimed we should have known her address and threatened to sue us if we didn't pay her $1,000 in cash. Her rationale was that it would cost us at least $1,000 to defend the suit. She was in a state which our company did not have any offices, so we should just pay it to her. I declined, but still forwarded her the $10 coupon she was entitled to, pursuant to our rewards program. Sure enough, she sued us for breach of contract, fraud, and any other conceivable charge. I went to my boss, the COO, and told him the story. He asked what I wanted to do. I said I'd rather pay legal fees to a defense attorney than pay Karen, and he agreed. I contacted outside counsel, our awesome attorney. I explained the situation to him, and I kid you not, he said in a southern drawl, "I get to sue Karen? I should be paying you guys. There are a lot of lawyers in this legal community who would love to sue her, as she is reckless, unpleasant, and a total pain in the ass to deal with. I'll gladly take your case." He agreed to defend us at a reduced rate. Part of our defense strategy was to counter-sue her under the state's frivolous lawsuit statute, which would move the suit from small claims court to the larger civil court. Awesome Attorney filed our answer and counterclaim. Although Karen was an attorney, she was not a defense attorney, so she had to engage her own attorney to defend against this counterclaim. After a couple of hearings, she offered to settle for no more money exchanged. She didn't even get the extra $25 coupon I offered her, and the dismissal of both suits. I talked with Awesome Attorney about continuing our claim, but he advised it would probably be worth settling and being done with it rather than being vindictive. Although vindictive would have been fun, courts tend not to like that, so I agreed. My company ended up paying Awesome Attorney $900 in attorney's fees. Awesome Attorney later called and told us that the attorney Karen engaged charged her $1,700 to defend the suit. Although I would have liked to continue our suit, I think her having paid $1,700 over a $10 coupon sent to the wrong address is sufficient justice. Did anyone else get a shiver up their spine when I said that Karen was an attorney? Yikes. Never mess with a rancher and a neighbour. My father had the ultimate revenge when I was a kid. I grew up on a horse ranch in Colorado. We had a long piece of property, about 80 acres, and we raised Missouri foxtrotters. We had lived there for almost 20 years when some folks bought a strip of property way at the back of our land. It was a strange plot of land as it was very narrow and was sandwiched between our back fence and a busy country road. We were surprised anyone would buy it actually, as it forced the house to be pretty close to said road. Well, we'd never meet these new neighbours until one day my dad gets a notice from a lawyer telling us that after having surveyed the property lines, our back fence encroaches on their property between 3 and 6 inches depending on the spot along the fence line. These folks had never met us, never introduced themselves. Our first introduction was this legal demand. My father was a salt of the earth kind of man, very kind, but also very strong-willed. He called these folks, arranged a meetup, and tried to talk some sense into them. First, did 3 to 6 inches really matter that much, and why had they not come to talk it through? He even offered a number of different compromises. These folks were hostile from the get-go. They demanded he move the fence immediately, or they would sue. Apparently the law stated they had to put their house so far away from our fence line, and they wanted to push it as far back from the road as they could when they built it, so they wanted that 6 inches very badly. I still remember when my dad got home from the meeting. He hung his hat up and shook his head when he told my mum in his slow way. "Well, looks like we got the kind of folks for neighbours you don't ever want to have for neighbours." They sued, and won, and we were forced to move the fence in 2 weeks. I say we because I was the free slave labour as all farm kids are in this kind of thing. All that fencing material and the time were a big cost for my family, but we got the work done in early spring. Here's where the fun comes in. So the new neighbours broke ground and built all through the end of winter and into spring. The very next weekend after they had moved into their house, Dad rousted me out of bed and we took the big truck into town to the lumber yard. I was extremely puzzled as we loaded up a bunch of fencing material and building supplies. We didn't have any big projects going that I knew about, and I kept asking him what it was for, but he just told me to wait and see with a devilish smile on his face. We built a pen and a small enclosure very near our back property line, directly behind the neighbour's new shiny house. The next day, one of our farm friends delivered a half dozen pigs to their new home. Dad insisted on feeding those hogs table scraps and all the things that would go into the composter, as well as some good balanced hog feed to keep them healthy. Now, you may not know this, but the smell of pig excrement is directly related to what they eat and their pen. Table scraps make them smell bad, and I mean bad. I had to drive the four-wheeler back there every day to take care of them, and within a month halfway there my eyes would start watering. It smelled so bad. When we mucked out the pen with the bobcat, we also made the pile right next to the pen. I can't even imagine how bad the smell was living in that house. The neighbours, of course, freaked out, and again, without ever even trying to talk to us, went the legal route. They lost. The area was zoned agricultural, and my dad had done his homework to make sure he was breaking no laws or regulations. The pigs were far enough from us and our neighbours that it didn't bother anyone but the people he wanted it to bother. Come fall, when winter moved in, we sold the pigs to slaughter, and Dad stacked up a bunch of building supplies next to the pen and let the neighbours know we would be expanding the profitable operation in the spring when they came out to scream at him. He smiled the whole time, speaking in his slow, steady way. The new neighbours sold their new house in January when the ground was frozen and the new owners would not smell the pen. Though, as soon as the old neighbours were gone, we tore down the enclosure, spread the nasty stuff on the hayfield, and the new neighbours never had any bad smell come spring. They were also great neighbours and are still lifelong friends. Never mess with a rancher. Edit. Since I have gotten this question a bunch of times, this is what my dad proposed to the neighbour after getting the letter to move the fence, but before we ended up in court. He really did want to try and cultivate a good relationship with the new neighbour, even though they started on such a lousy foot. Number 1. He offered to sell them 5 acres of land at the back of the property at a super affordable price so they could have a better plot and get well back from the road. Our back fence line was almost 5 acres long, so it would have shaved an acre long line off is all, and that was wooded land that was not good pasture land anyway. They were not interested. They had plenty of funds too, by the way, as they were sitting on $1 million payout from selling their home in California, which we knew as they brought it up multiple times in the discussion. Statements that they had all the money they needed to take us to court if we didn't comply immediately. Number 2. My dad asked if he could move the fence over time then, rather than being hit for the cost all at once. Ranchers are not made of money. We could move the section right behind the proposed building site immediately to help with planning, etc. first. They were not willing to do that. It all had to be moved immediately. Number 3. Lastly, my dad was friends with the 2 guys that did the inspections for the county for this kind of stuff. We had built many additions and changes on the ranch over time as well. They were all in the volunteer fire department together as well. He offered to get them all together and see what options they had for dealing with the offset issue. The neighbour refused, again demanding the fence be moved immediately. If you can see a theme here, so did my dad. There's no pleasing some people, so my dad let him take us to court. I later found out Dad was using the time to save up some money since he figured he would have to move the fence and that was expensive, and he hoped that maybe the neighbour would not push it that far and come to work with him rather than go to all that cost. I know my dad reached out a couple more times to the neighbour before things went to court too. Wow, I think he hit the nail on the head when he said there's no pleasing some people. It sounds like they really deserve to lose their lovely new home, and I'm hoping that the new neighbours who moved in got a very reasonable price. I also really hope for my own satisfaction that the entitled people drove past that house maybe the next year and realised that it had all been a plot to make their lives miserable. A co-worker was eating people's lunches, so I poisoned them and got them fired. So I like to bring my own food into the office, and we have a fridge to put things into, and I have my food in tubs with my name on them. A co-worker would sometimes not see people's names on food and think that it was theirs, so would heat it up and eat it and then apologise. They did this enough for it to be an annoyance, but not enough for our employers to really care. This has been happening with my food for once or twice a month. Last month, I had enough, and I like spicy food, but don't bring it into the office as sometimes I'll let people try some of my food and my cooking. I ordered a bag of ghost chili peppers and put the full bag into a big pot of chili that would last for several days. I took this into the office and had it for lunch every day. Midweek, my lunch went missing, and I was waiting for the person who was stealing my lunch to get a shock when they ate my lunch. What happened in reality was someone got sent home sick, and the next day they were off, and I was told they went to the doctors for stomach pains. 2 weeks went by, and the co-worker who was off refused to talk about it and said HR was involved, so I knew they were going to try and get me fired. I went home and ordered another bag of ghost chilies and made another batch of my chili, this time with only one chili in a single tub. I put this in the freezer, and the following Monday I was told I had an HR meeting that day. I refused and said they need to give me 24 hours to find someone to come into the meeting with me, and the next day I had my manager come into the meeting and brought in my, now heated, ghost chili infused chili. The long and short is, I was told I could be fired for trying to poison that person who was stealing my lunch, and I asked if they admitted to stealing people's lunch, which they did. I then said I have a batch of the chili in question with me, and I like spicy food. My liking spicy food shouldn't stop me from having it at work, since it doesn't smell when heated, like fish does. And my manager agreed. It was on the person who took my lunch without knowing how spicy it was, and I should not be held liable if they eat something of someone else's that doesn't agree with them. My manager and I then ate some of the chili and offered it to the other people in the meeting, some of which tried it and agreed while it was spicy it was clearly what I liked as I was fine eating it. The meeting ended, and nothing happened. I wasn't taken into another meeting and my lunch wasn't taken anymore, but the person who had stole our lunch got a slap on the wrist and was allowed to stay at work. Lunches started to go missing again, so my manager went to HR to say that lunches were going missing, and I knew he was taking it and had proof this time. And when they asked for the proof, he presented the meeting record with the line highlighted where they admitted they had stolen lunch, and the line where HR had said this was not what the meeting was about. They were fired the next day for theft of property and told they would not be given a reference. Okay, so that's all for r/ProRevenge. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. And as it's Sunday, I also want to say a massive thank you to my wonderful patrons. BackwardsDDog, Tyler Miller, Jen Burton, Jens Banning, Bo Walker, Princess Kate, Skyler A, Elizabeth Filmore, Stephen Arnowitt, Anonymous, Shagar, and Koltin. Thank you all so much for your support. Mwah. That's for you, but keep it between us, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Bye!